Hey guys, so a lot of people are totally mystified as to why this happens. They change out the battery in their smoke alarms and then find that it's still chirping. And I'm going to give you 8 very simple reasons why this happens, how to rectify it, and you'll understand why this happens in the future. And also I'm going to talk about what I believe is one of the better smoke alarms to have. It doesn't just make a noise, but it actually alerts you through your smartphone. Now these 2 smoke alarms are actually battery operated, but I have one in my basement that is actually hardwired to the house, but on occasion it will chirp for no reason, and it's very confusing to a lot of people. They can't figure out why a hardwired smoke alarm would be chirping, but if you'll take it off the wall and take a look inside of it, you'll discover there's usually a battery backup on those, and that's because if you have an electrical fire or if you have a power outage and a fire happens, then you would need some type of notification. So a lot of times they still have a battery in it even though it's hardwired. Now one important thing to remember is you don't want to go with the cheapest generic battery you can find to put in these, because a lot of times a generic battery can cause chirping because it's such a low quality battery. So just remember, you want to go with a very well-known name brand, Duracell, Energizer, those types of batteries that won't give you that problem. So a lot of people will buy the cheapest battery they can online, a generic battery they think is just as good as the others, and then find that they're having a problem still with chirping during the middle of the night when they're trying to sleep. Now a lot of people will replace their battery and still getting this chirping noise. They're using a high quality battery, but they can't figure out why it's still happening. Why? Well, you could have a residual charge or an internal error. So the best thing to do is to remove the battery, and then even though there's no battery in it, you want to press the test button for up to 30 seconds to get rid of this residual charge that may still be in it. So just press and hold for 30 seconds and then reinstall your battery, and then you'll discover that that residual charge or the internal error that happened when you changed out the battery, it will be gone, and you'll resolve the problem of the constant chirping even though you've put a new battery in, a high quality battery. Now another issue that happens over time, we all have dust in our homes, and I made a video recently about how to cut way back on the dust in your home. I'll put a link up at the top to that, but it's a homemade system that will remove about 99% of the dust in your house if you follow it very closely. But dust can get inside of these and also cause a problem. So one of the great things to do is to take some duster that you use on a lot of electronics, go around and blast it out quite well. You want to make sure that you remove any dust that might be in there. If you don't have the can duster, then use a vacuum cleaner and hold it right up to it and vacuum out as much dust as you can. Take a feather duster and dust the inside, but never ever ever use any type of liquid cleaning products or any type of products that are designed to remove dust that contain liquids or oils, because that can really cause this thing to go haywire. So stay away from any cleaning products and only use either vacuumed air or compressed air to blow any dust out. Now one of the smoke alarms we had installed was on a wall near a bathroom, a hall bathroom, and every time someone took a hot shower in the wintertime, we'd have a lot of steam rush out when that door was open, and you'd have this chirping problem. It never did set it off completely, but there would be an occasional chirp. So just remember, anytime you're near a kitchen sink where steam can be generated, or stove, or a shower, that can cause false chirping on these. So you want to make sure that you keep them away from anywhere that you might have an excess of moisture or steam. Another thing is, if you have it near an intake vent on your HVAC system, that can cause a problem too, because you can have a lot of dust moving around it, which can actually set it off as well. Now let's say you've changed out your batteries, reinstalled a new one, you discharged all the possible previous electricity that might have been stored in there, and you're still getting that problem. Now this 9-volt is not so much of an issue, but if you have this type where you have either a AAA, AA, or this unusual size battery, sometimes you need to put your screwdriver in there because the battery is not being properly seated and it's not making proper contact, which can cause chirping. So you can take a screwdriver and pull it out on both sides. This side's a spring and this side is a flat piece of metal. And so if it's not making good contact with both sides, you can have a chirping issue. So just pull it out slightly with a screwdriver. When the battery's removed, do the same thing on the spring side and make sure it's seated well. You can test it often by turning it upside down and shaking it and hitting the palm of your hand. If the batteries fall back out, it means they're not properly seated and there's too loose of a connection, and it can result in chirping. Now let's say you've done all of the above, you've reseated the battery, you did the discharge, and you're still getting a chirp. Well, You need to check on the back of the battery in the fine print and find the manufacturing date. If it's over 8 years, it could be giving you a warning every 30 to 60 seconds saying it's out of life. There could be a small computer chip in there that recognizes that it's out of date. So that could be the problem, is that your smoke alarm has exceeded that 8-year limit and it's time to replace the entire unit and just toss this one away. Now, there are some type of smoke alarms that are all interconnected, so if one goes off because of a fire, they'll all go off. And what can happen a lot of times, you'll have one smoke alarm in an area that you're not in very often, maybe a basement or an area of the house, especially if you have a larger home. That one can go bad and could be just chirping, but you don't hear it, maybe inside of a closet or somewhere you can't get to that easily, or that just you don't go to. So just remember that if they're interconnected systems, you'll have to find which smoke alarm is causing the problem, and then you can reset that one, and usually that will solve the problem if it's the variety that are all interconnected and they communicate with each other through whatever method. Now, another reason you might have chirping happening after installing a battery, if there wasn't a proper reset. Some particular varieties, some particular brands want you to do a manual reset. So once you put the new battery in there, you may need to hold it down again for about 15 to 30 seconds to do a manual reset, so the smoke alarm knows there's a new battery and it's been reset. Now, I live in the deep south and humidity is just part of life here. And if you don't have a dehumidifier in your house, you could have an excess amount of humidity around your smoke alarm. So you want to make sure that you either use sandpaper, you can use a sanding block, and you can just wipe down the tips of it, do a personal inspection there, make sure that you have a really good view of it, shine a bright light on it, and make sure there's no corrosion there. If there is, you can take something like sanding paper or a sanding block like this. You can take regular sanding paper. It doesn't have to be the coarse type, just maybe a finer grit. You can also take a small wire brush. These are just little automotive brushes that I bought a set of, and just brush it down quite well to remove any corrosion. And that doesn't only apply to your smoke alarm, but also the battery. Take a close look and make sure there's no corrosion on the battery itself, and do the same procedure. Now, one really good idea that when you're changing out batteries, if you do it in all units at the same time. So if you have 3 or 4 smoke alarms, this can seem like a waste to have to change out other batteries, but more than likely you installed these smoke alarms many years ago and the batteries have just now worn out, and you'll have one happening in succession over the other. So it's better to go ahead and change out 2, 3, or 4 smoke alarms all at the same time, so you don't have this confusion, because if one battery has died, there's probably just a month, 2 or 3 behind the next battery will go bad. So it's just better to do that all at the same time. And also take some painter's tape, put on the back of it when the battery was changed, write it down, and then that way you'll get an idea of how often you should be changing these batteries, because the next time it starts chirping, years later, you'll know exactly the date that you started and changed out all your batteries last time. So this next thing actually happened to me in my garage. I had an insect get into the system and it got out before I could see it. And then when I went to test it, I did everything mentioned above. So there's always the possibility that a small spider, possibly ants, or even roaches may have gotten in here and triggered it, the mechanism. So don't ever discount insects in there either. And it's a good idea to make sure you put these somewhere where you don't have a possibility of insects. So I made sure that I changed the location in my garage because it was close to a door opening, and there were occasionally some bugs that came in that way and that found their way to the smoke alarm. Now, as I mentioned early in the video about this particular smoke alarm, actually gives me warnings via my smartphone. It's set up through the SimpliSafe system. I really like it. I have glass break sensors, I have smoke alarms, I had flood sensors. So the SimpliSafe system, and you can do whatever system you like, but a lot of the modern alarm systems are integrated with the smoke alarm, and it also has carbon monoxide detection. So it's really what I think is really one of the best products on the market. This is my personal biased opinion. Not sponsored by SimpliSafe. I paid for it with my own money, but I have an entire system and I've really been happy with it. And I'm going on the 2nd year with SimpliSafe and it's worked flawlessly. Anytime there's an issue, I've left a door open in the garage once and some carbon monoxide came in from a car, or I think it was a lawnmower or something like that. It went off and immediately sent a message to my smartphone. So it's really one of those things that you want to do. If you want to have a top-of-the-line system, I recommend SimpliSafe. I've really been happy with it, and I think you will be too. Hey guys, so I just love making content that helps people in some way, and I'll put links in the description to all the products I'm talking about, especially the SimpliSafe system. As I said, I'm not sponsored in any way. I just personally like the system. It was super easy to set up, and I heard it advertised on a lot of different radio shows, so I figured I'd give it a try. I purchased it on Amazon, so if I didn't like it, I always had the option to send it back within so many days. So I really think it was a great purchase, and I think if you don't have an alarm system and don't have a smoke detector hooked up to your alarm system, I think you'll like it because there's so many other features that you can do. As I said earlier, flood, fires, carbon monoxide, glass break. So it's all there in one system. So guys, if you have a question about this video or any previous video, I hope you'll become a public subscriber first, because I get anywhere from 100 to 300 comments a day, and it's nearly impossible to answer everybody. So I always put people who are subscribers to the very front of the line. I try to answer their question as honestly and accurately as I can. If you want to see added content or content that may never be released on YouTube, I have a Patreon, and so if you'd like to support the channel, you can go there and see some non-YouTube videos. Also, there's a lot of stuff you can download for free, a lot of PDFs and things like that. And I think there may be 1 or 2 videos. I'm just starting it here recently, so you may want to take a look. If not now, later on, you'll see a lot more videos. So guys, I really appreciate you watching, and have a great day.